like I'd never lie, and I just love it there. Like I love Nepal so much. Like I love being there, the food, just everything about it. And I always kind of, it's so different to anywhere else in the world, but I've never felt as home as anywhere in the world as there. It's really unique.
Right. Do you recall any moment like the first time you visit Nepal, and how was it like the first time? Like, because I think the culture is completely is very different from where you are from, I guess.
Yeah, and look, I suppose when I worked for ICC, I would have gone to a lot of the cricketing countries. You know, I would have been in India a lot, in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, and I was probably a bit naive thinking that Nepal would be the same, but it's so different, isn't it, culturally?
Right.
Yeah. When are we going to? We haven't started yet, have we? No.
It is it is rolling already.
Oh, right. Okay. Nobody even said hello.
It's not like formal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't we do I did not know this was. I thought we were just talking. Right. That's a good one for the outtakes. Let's cut it there and start it again. Sorry, I did not know. Okay. Namaste.
Namaste.
Sorry.
So we wanted to keep it formal. Yeah, sorry, keep it
Informal.
informal. So
Okay.
thank God, like
I know you guys have like a lot of interviews.
You're supposed not to ask that question.
Sorry. Yeah, I genuinely had no idea we were. I thought you were still working the cameras and all that. Right. Cut it there and.
Right.
Sorry, I was waiting for like an introduction and all that sort of stuff.
I don't think anybody needs your introduction. Like, at least the viewers that are watching us, you know, most of the people know you by yourself, and everybody loves you. Like, whenever we see you in the commentary box, and I have seen you a lot, and we can feel that emotion and all the changes from ups and downs, and you are so much invested in the game, and we are invested in that, in your voice. Like, we are experiencing it at the same time, even if we are behind the screen. So.
Yeah, thank you, firstly, and look, great to be here with you. It feels really surreal to be here because obviously Nepal is massively close to my heart, but we're so far away from Nepal. We're literally on the opposite side of the world, but there's such an amazing Nepalese community here. I saw it last night. I'm going to see it again tonight. I'm seeing it with you guys here. And there's such a pride of being from Nepal, and rightly so, because it's such a great country. So, it feels really trippy to be 12 hours away from Kathmandu, right out of the time zone, but to be discussing a place I love so much right on the eve of maybe one of the biggest journeys in the country's history.
I mean, we've been waiting it for like last 10 years. I remember like when I watching Nepal playing with Afghanistan back then, and we had all this emotion when Nepal was playing with Afghanistan back in TU ground. And, even if there were a lot of defeats, but it's a part of a game, and we see them winning. And now with your voice, whenever we hear the game, even if we lose, there is some kind of excitement, like we are doing some kind of progress in the field.
Yeah, and look, I think I mean this in a good way for the team 10 years ago. I think things are so different now, not just within Nepal, but within the sport, the developments that are now coming, and it's taken a while. We've had very small World Cups. We've got a 20-team World Cup. This morning I was watching Papua New Guinea very nearly beat the West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
How incredible is that?
Right.
USA were phenomenal last night. I'm so excited to see how the Netherlands and Scotland, well, hope the Netherlands do well in all the games apart from against Nepal.
Right. We hope so.
How all the developing teams, how Uganda do. And okay, they're not going to win the World Cup. Uganda will not win the World Cup. I will confirm that for you today.
Right.
They might just win a game. And they might just have a 5 or 10 over period where they get a big wicket. You've got a guy who's 43 years of age who I think he gave the greatest quotes I've heard in the entire build up to this World Cup. This is the dream that I have been chasing for all my life.
Right.
And he's 43 years of age, Franken Sambuga. He debuted in 1997 as a 16-year-old.
Wow.
And he's, that's the power of, I think, our sport, all sports, but particularly the associate world of sport, where I think the vast majority of my work and my commentary, and that's why I love shining light on these men and women and telling their stories.
Right. I mean, all these quotes that you've been doing, like that you've been saying about this, kind of gives also goosebumps. Like every time we are there, we are witnessing something great, and all these nations, associate nations, they are trying their best to come out and give their best. And even when they are playing with the test nations, it's our honor to see them play that way that we really don't get. And now this World Cup has presented us that opportunity with getting like 20 teams in there, right? So
and I think it's going to happen. I'm confident. I think I think Bangladesh is the game to target. That's really kind of, you want to call it a cup final in a way. Obviously, you want to try and get through to the Super 8. That would be just absolutely massive. And with Group D being so open, everyone very much capable of beating each other. Sri Lanka are playing South Africa tomorrow to get Group D going. I really fancy Sri Lanka to win that game. I don't think the pitch looked very fast and flat there in New York, where we saw the warm-up game between India and Bangladesh. So with those spin options that Sri Lanka have, I quite fancy Sri Lanka. You might think, well, hold on, South Africa should be big favourites for the group. Everyone in that group, on their day, even for Nepal against South Africa, are capable of beating each other. And you've got to have that belief in the modern game. By all rights, if you look at the backgrounds and the setups, you know, the finances and the investments and the popularity of the sport in some of these countries, there's no way that Papua New Guinea should even be allowed in the same pitch as England or Australia. But that's the beauty of the new format. That's the beauty of an open draw, no preliminary phase now, like we had in 2014. Nepal went to a World Cup. Right. It was all over after 3 games and before some of the teams had even started in the tournament yet. This is a proper World Cup.
Right.
It's 20 teams. It's open draw. It's have a good day out against South Africa and you can lower them down and beat them, just like the Netherlands have done the last 2 times they've played them in 2 different World Cups. And Nepal have to have that belief. I know how good they can be. Are they playing at their very, very best right now? Well, we're going to find out on Tuesday. I'm not quite sure yet.
Right. So, I mean, every time we watch Nepal play, it's kind of like a roller coaster, you know, like last time we talked to Basanta Regmi. Amazing. And we discussed about how, and Prithu Bhaskara, so we were talking about how roller coaster ride has it been for the Nepali team. And we see it every game, like every game is excitement. Like the last ball, we have to wait for the last ball because we never know what's going to happen.
And actually this morning's game, I was watching it there, Papua New Guinea against the West Indies, is a great example of that. I think they were 8 for 2 in the first innings, and the casual viewer might have looked at that and said, oh, well, this game's over. West Indies have some of the most powerful, biggest hitters in the world. But Papua New Guinea scraped up to 136. The indication so far for me, even though we're in June, probably with the exception of Texas and maybe Florida, I'm not sure how good the pitches are going to be in terms of really high scores, the 230, 240, 250, the madness we've seen in the IPL this year. I think a lot of people came in and said, oh, well, we're going to see massive scores every game. I don't think that's necessarily the case, particularly down in the Caribbean. And those 2 games that Nepal will play down in St. Vincent, they could be low scoring. They could suit Nepal a little bit like Papua New Guinea. We're quite well suited today in Guyana. But that point you made about those games going to the very final over, I really hope that's the case. I really hope we have those kind of heart-stopping moments of either joy or despair. The cardiac kids, they're named that for a reason. Right. And I kind of want the wider world to be introduced to that. I know they're starting to become aware of Nepali cricket in a big way, particularly with all the exploits in 2023, getting to the Asia Cup, doing so well to get those 11 wins from 12 to the qualifier and that historic run. I just want that drama on the global stage with everyone watching it. I want them to be invested and buy in. It's 11 v 11. Right. That's the way it works. When you get out there, doesn't matter if you're Virat Kohli with tens of millions of dollars in endorsements and $1 million IPL contracts, or if you're John Carrico, who's 20 years of age and probably isn't getting paid to play cricket yet. Right. And that's the beauty. That's what I love. I don't know, is it because I'm from an underdog nation, because from a small nation, I come from Ireland, but the stories of these 9 associate teams of this World Cup, I'll be living and breathing every single ball. And as for the 4 Nepal games, God, maybe stick a heart monitor on me. I'm not sure I'll be able to handle it.
Hopefully we'll perform by our heart, and we'll have some good results on the way. And how do you find the stadiums around here in the United States? We haven't found because whenever there is like Cricket World Cup, there used to be hype back in Nepal, but here it's kind of dead. I think you find it that way too, because nobody's talking about it. There is nothing around, and I don't even know if the United States immigration know about it and all.
Yeah, look, that side of it is probably a little disappointing. That maybe the efforts that could have been made to engage with the wider American public haven't quite been there. I don't think it's easy. You've got, 4, if you include soccer now with Major League Soccer, you've got 5 massive sports here that just dominate the landscape.
Right.
And to break that, I did actually go up to a Texas Rangers game the other night after the first couple of days I got in, and you just look at that stadium. I think it's a multi-billion-dollar stadium. Everything is absolutely the best in sports entertainment anywhere in the world. So to compete with that, even, at a very basic level, is close to impossible. I think they've spent about $25 million repurposing this minor league baseball stadium here in Grand Prairie. I have to say, I think it's exceptional. I think the outfield, the square, what they've done with the shape of the ground and the training facilities is just top class. So it's going to be a long time, or maybe we're going to need to see some multi-billionaire take a real interest in cricket to want to do it. But those little kind of $20-25 million projects are probably the more likely ones. It's a decent facility down in Florida. It's got its own challenges as well. And then they've gone with this hybrid approach with a pop-up stadium, 35,000 seats up in New York. It's going to be torn down after, so there won't be a legacy, but there will be an amazing 8 or 9 games or whatever it is there. How do you crack the American market? I suppose it's like any band or any product or any sport. It's not easy. And I think that's the key thing. They don't know. There's actually, from the people I talk to, kind of just going through restaurants or at the hotels, or just on my travels here since I've been in America. And I did do quite a bit of work with USA Cricket between sort of 2018 and 2022. There's a real appetite and interest once you explain it to them. It's kind of getting that wider word out there. That is not easy. And the reality is it costs money. I think what they've probably looked at in this event, as I said, there's so much interest from the expats. We probably, they've tried a few big things in New York. We've seen some of the buildings lit up. We've seen some other sports get involved with kind of the launch of the stadium there up in Eisenhower Park. But I think it's so much more difficult than we probably think. You'd love to have seen a bit more local engagement. Hopefully the crowds will be full throughout. And then the other thing you've got to consider and got to stick into the mix, what other sport in the world would be playing World Cup games at 10:30 a.m. in the morning?
Right.
There isn't another sport. It would be catered to the fans. So let's say you had a FIFA World Cup here, which I think is coming here at some point
26.
soon. I can almost guarantee you, even if there's 3 games a day, it'll be 2 p.m., 7 p.m., or 2 p.m., 6 p.m., and 9 p.m.
Right.
They'll cater it as best as they can for the local fans. But the reality is, the vast majority of our sport, love it or hate it, it's funded by Indian TV money. Right. So, if you're paying $3.1 billion for a 4-year set of rights, which is what Star Sports have paid from 2024 to 2027, I guess you're entitled to dictate when those games are. And if you're playing those games at the times that would be best for the United States or for the Caribbean, let's say in a triple header scenario, 2 p.m., 6 p.m., 9:30 p.m., you'd have, a real narrative throughout the day of the group stages then. That's almost entirely through the night in India. So, look, I'm not saying I love there being 10:30 a.m. games. I wish that Nepal-Netherlands game that we're all going to be at on Tuesday was at 7:30 p.m. and we saw those beautiful, floodlit scenes, the sun setting like we saw in the USA-Canada game. But I understand why it is. And I'm not sure there's a simple solution because that money, in essence, bankrolls our sport globally.
Right. I mean, I think you have spoken about it when Nepal was playing, I think in Division 4 or 3. I don't exactly remember the division, but the website of the ICC went down when people were watching the game. So that kind of craze is something that put these big companies who are doing these big projects to the audiences. So I think that is the target of them to get as much as viewership race games.
Look, absolutely, and I'm hoping that. I spoke about the wider world. I want to be drawn attention to Nepal and to get an understanding of what cricket means to the country and just what the country is generally. I think the wider world, the globe, would just think of Everest when they think of Nepal. Right. There's so much more to it. There's so much more to the culture, the people, the music, the food, the ethos. There's a beautiful kindness to people in Nepal that is probably unlike anywhere I've ever been. And I don't think much of the wider world knows about that. They just think, oh, well, they've got the Himalayas and these incredible treks. And the number of tourists I meet in Kathmandu who fly in and are in Kathmandu for less than 24 hours or maybe one night. And then they go off and do the trekking and they never explore this incredible, diverse cultural city.
Right.
And that frustrates me. And I think the cricket team, a little bit like I've made this comparison to the Irish soccer team in 1990. I think this cricket team have a real chance to actually start to kind of create a process of self-actualization for the country, to see how great a country it is, to see how brilliant the people are, to see how talented everyone that I always meet in Nepal is. I know there's challenges there. I'm not pretending there isn't. I know the infrastructure issues that you have. Politics to me seem a bit mad and I don't get involved in them ever. But the potential for the country is massive. And I see that similarity to where Ireland was 30 years ago. And, you will not meet a better group of ambassadors in terms of sport, let alone cricket, than Rohit Paudil's boys and what Monty Desai has kind of brought about with that culture. They are special. And you know, we saw special stuff last night for the United States of America. Hopefully a couple of kids are going to go, God, who's this Aaron Jones? I want to get involved in cricket. He looks cool. I'm not tall either. Maybe that's a sport for me. I was watching the Mavericks in the basketball, but I can't play that because I'm Aaron Jones' height. Well, hold on, come and play cricket. It's for all.
Yeah, I mean, like, there is a lot of excitement seen in the Nepalese crowd, even though there is not much of, things going around the United States. But how do you feel about this decision by the ICC board of conducting the cricket in the place where there is no knowledge of cricket, I would say?
Do you mean in the United States of
Right.
America? I'll have to be honest here. I was a little bit involved in this. So when I worked for USA Cricket, I worked for a great guy called Ian Higgins, who was the former chief operating officer of the ICC. So when I was at the ICC, I would have worked with him. And when I resigned from the ICC, I wanted to go back home and play a couple of seasons of cricket. He hadn't got involved yet, but the guys in Project USA, which was setting up the governing body, asked me could I help them with some digital work, some commercial work, some design and branding to help get the new governing body off the mark. And then when Ian Higgins came in as a CEO in 2019, he's a pretty ambitious and sort of visionary guy. And he said, well, hold on. I think the only way we can start to make waves here in the United States is to try and get an ICC major event here. And it was already written in the ICC strategy that I think it's actually one of the 5 pillars of their strategy is to grow the game in the United States. Mm-hmm. It's certainly in and around that scale of importance for them. It's, their lines will be that it's the largest sports media market in the world with, one of the largest economies in the world with actually quite an active cricket loving population. Sometimes there's talks of 10 to 20 million. I think it's probably more like 2 to 4, maybe 3 to 5 million who are quite engaged in cricket. And obviously the vast majority of them are from, communities that love cricket, whether it be India, Pakistan, or the Caribbean, or South Africa, or wherever they originally come from. But that doesn't mean that they don't live here and contribute to society here and love their cricket. So, look, it's out of a time zone that's good for India, but I think it was the right move. I was reasonably heavily involved in terms of pulling together the pitch pack with Ian. Ian would have done it all with Johnny Grave out of Cricket West Indies, and I think the Cricket West Indies guys felt that they wouldn't get a World Cup to their part of the world without the support of USA. So it was a perfect kind of symbiotic relationship that ended up being the overwhelmingly most popular bid for this World Cup. And initially there was a bit of talk that, okay, well, we'll wait till 2030. But I think Ian and Johnny were very keen to get it as early as possible in the cycle, particularly with the expansion. At that point, the expansion to 20 teams was already confirmed. So it did feel like a really nice fit. Has everything gone swimmingly well for the tournament? We're only a couple of days in.
Right.
I think the cricket on the pitch will be brilliant. Has everything gone perfectly? Maybe not. I think logistically it's very challenging. Yeah. You've got 3 different states and then 6 different countries and 7 different venues in the Caribbean. That can't be easy. Visas, entries, logistics, cost of things here in the United States and the Caribbean. It was ambitious. I'm really hoping what we saw with USA Canada last night shows why that ambition was worthwhile. I'm praying for 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9, 10 associate wins over Test Nations. Who knows? I'd take 4 or 5 if you offered me. I'm praying for really good cricket. I think I cannot remember a World Cup of more importance for our sport than this one. If this is a disaster, if this is a flop, if the associates get hammered in every game, if nobody turns up, if it rains and hails and we've got thunder and lightning, I don't know where it leaves our sport for, the years to come. But if it's a big success, I can guarantee you something, everyone's going to be taking credit for it, and that's fine. Right. Everyone's going to be saying, this is the way we always should have gone. We always should have expanded. And I know from covering the leading associates, you could easily go to 24 teams. You could go to 24 teams today, and there's the depth there. And there's actually probably in 10, 15, 20 years, very comfortably a 32-team T20 World Cup you could go to, and that excites me ever so much.
Right, like whenever there was this decision made about the 20 teams, I was kind of excited, like seeing it like the football, because whenever we talk about the football, here soccer, so yep. Every country is participating in that whole game, right? So each country that are involving in that, from whoever it is, like 194 countries or how many countries there are, everybody is participating, everybody knows about it, everybody's playing it. Even here, not too many people know about it. People know about it at least somehow.
And particularly if they qualify for a World Cup. You know,
Right.
and that's one of the things that I've always tried to get across in any of my coverage is the importance of the World Cups. It's not that the USA men's national team are necessarily going to go and win that soccer World Cup. They've never done it. I think they might have got to a quarterfinal once, but they've never been really close.
Right.
That's not the point.
Right.
And it's not the point for necessarily for Cameroon in Africa or for Chile in South America or South Korea in Asia. It's about going to the World Cup.
Right.
It's about the story of that journey. It's about winning a game at the World Cup.
Right.
It's about doing the best you've ever done in a World Cup. And, you know, that's what USA have already achieved in one game. They've never played a World Cup before. They've already won a match.
Right.
You know, and all of a sudden, I can tell you something. They're thinking, hold on, we can maybe get to a Super 8 spot here.
Right.
Ireland, we've beaten them before. We can beat them. Pakistan, you never know what you're going to get with Pakistan.
Right.
They could blitz them away or they could be very shaky like we saw West Indies shaky against Papua New Guinea today. Can you imagine we got maybe more than one associate through to the Super 8?
Right.
The whole kind of world order of cricket, it could be really thrown into, I don't know, some kind of different new order.
Right. It will be like receiving the whole thing.
Yeah.
Whole cricket.
That would be good.
Right. I'm in right here. Like we see teams playing around, and the structure is a big question for the United States as well. But you know, once if it happens, like they go through the top 8 and they play, everybody starts knowing it. Everybody realizes there is this sport called cricket, not the baseball. It's a cricket, you know. So we never know.
And even the baseball players can come and play cricket.
Yeah, right. Imagine that. Imagine the women's softballers turning over to cricket. Like I watch softball sometimes. You see it on the TV channels here. The quality of athleticism in the States is phenomenal. The biggest challenge is visibility, though. Right. And I don't know if you saw that John Boy piece where he explained cricket to Americans. It's on the ICC channels. This came out a couple of days ago. He's an American guy who's got into cricket. He's a baseball guy originally, and he's kind of working with the ICC on this event. But he did this brilliant kind of 6-7 minute explainer, kind of breaking it down to an American who watches baseball and knows baseball but's never seen a game of cricket. And there's just no comparison. Like cricket, I quite like baseball. I enjoyed my day out there the other day, but there's so many more layers to cricket. There's so much more excitement. And like even John Boy, who's a massive baseball fan, was explaining it. Oh, well, you know, you come to a baseball game, you might see 8 or 10 runs and, you know, 10 or 15 hits in the whole game.
Right.
Like compare that to a T20 with 240 balls guaranteed.
Right.
With, you know, usually 300 runs plus guaranteed, sometimes 400 plus, now even 500 plus occasionally. You're going to be guaranteed to see wickets, catches, amazing fielding, athleticism. Like we sometimes hide our sport away to people who don't know it for some unbeknownst reason. We self-harm as a sport. We should celebrate our sport.
Right.
It is brilliant. It's the best game in the world. I'm still yet to find anyone who really understands it who doesn't like it.
Right.
I know plenty of people who bag it who don't understand a bit of it. But I don't know, we put up these barriers to allow people to understand it and get engaged with it. And I guess one of the big things I see in my life, I'm really a failed former player, a failed former coach,
but you are the best commentator,
a failed administrator, and thank you for that. But I'm really not sure that's true. And now I've somehow found the thing that I love, which is to commentate in the sport that I love. And I think a couple of years ago we lost maybe our sport's greatest salesman in Shane Warne. Nobody quite explained it like him, or garnered attention like him, or drew people in like him. And I would love if I could give 1/100th of what Shane Warne gave to our game. I was a leggy as well. That's another day's work, but I always idolized him when I was a kid. But he was just box office in terms of the way he brought people to the sport. He put their arm around them and said, "Hey, you're gonna love this. This is cool." And he was so cool. I'm not a 1,000th as cool as Shane Warne or as interesting as Shane Warne. I promise you. He lived the most phenomenal life in his 52 years. He lived 520 years in his 52. There's shades of that to me as well. I do plenty of stuff, but I would just love to sell our sport to more people and to explain it to more people and bring more people into it. And it's for me, it's the greatest gift we have. I adore our sport. And I'm hoping that this expansionist World Cup now has a real chance to, you know, change people's lives and get them into something that's very special, which is our great game.
If it comes to 20 over or 10 over, then we'll get really, you know, like into this sport.
Well, I challenge that with, you know, Thursday, March 16th, an ODI that I think started at 9:30 a.m. in the morning. There's probably 40,000 people in and around Kathmandu's TU International Cricket Ground for the day.
No, for the Nepal, yeah. Like
I get your wider point though.
Uh-huh.
Like people are time, or they think they're time poor now. They actually end up just spending their entire time on their phone, touching stuff and being idiots on. And sorry, I'm guilty of it as well. But we think we're really time poor now.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, okay, you say, well, there's not as many people watching Test cricket or watching ODI cricket in the grounds, but they just engage in it in different ways. You can be sure
through the phone,
they'll be watching the live scores, they'll watch the highlights, they'll see the viral clips, they'll engage with that.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, again, we criticize our sport a bit, but so many of the boards and leagues are doing brilliant jobs on digital in terms of, explaining the sport, getting more people into it, these amazing viral moments, because the game is so good now, the athleticism, the quality of fielding, the brilliance of bowling and the massive hitting. Some people are saying there's too many runs. I say give us more.
Right. The more the runs, the better the game.
Why? That just seems to be an older generation of cricketers. They're like, oh, this is terrible. They're scoring too many runs now. It's like, why? Okay, you want some kind of a balance between bat and ball. You want the bowlers to have a role, but I actually think I was a leg spinner. I would love to be coming into my own now and playing into the game now, because back in my day, when you went for 8 runs in an over, you were taken out of the attack. Oh God, you got hit for 2 boundaries, you're done. Right. Now, if you're going at under 10s, you're a hero in the team. You're one of the best bowlers. You're a superstar.
Right.
But it's all about perspective, isn't it? It's like, rather than people going, oh, well, no one's going to want to become a bowler now. I'd love to be a bowler now because I've got a bigger leeway. If I do well, I'm the absolute hero. But look, to go back to your point about the length of games and how long it takes, that is one of the unique things about cricket. The way I always look at it, though, is that, if you look at Test cricket as the absolute pinnacle, nobody gives out about the Masters golf tournament being run over 4 days. They love every second of those 4 days. Mm-hmm. Test cricket is still, for me, and we saw Ireland, I was lucky enough to be there commentating when they beat Afghanistan, win their first test this year in Abu Dhabi. Every one of the players will tell you that was, outside of maybe a World Cup win over England or something like that, this was the pinnacle of their career. And it still means that much to the players. Mm-hmm. But the reality is the economics of the game are that to run a game for 5 days with not a huge amount of fans coming in does cost money. It may not make money, but hopefully T20 is the vehicle to make that money, to then allow all the formats to still be played, together. And I think ODI cricket, without that, particularly the leading associates, would be in real trouble, because that's where they learn, that's where they develop. That's kind of their Test cricket, because they're not allowed to play Test cricket. So there is a difficulty balancing it all for the administrators and making sure they all work together. It's not easy. It really isn't. And the calendar is more crazy than ever. Like England and Pakistan were playing a game 48 hours before the start of this tournament in a different country. Like it's madness. But hopefully the 3 formats, I noticed you mentioned T10, but hopefully the 3 primary formats will be able to coexist and continue to coexist with some really good vision and cooperation and creativity between not just the leading boards, not just between England, India and Australia, but everyone in and around that top table. And that's not just the 12 full members, but the best associates as well.
Right. So even when we talk about like T10 or T20, like it's more about the new viewership. When we talk about like the 50 over or test games, when we talk about it, it will take a good amount of time. But for the new viewers, if somebody's trying to watch the cricket, they don't want to give the whole time, right? Like they don't want to give like 5 days to watch the cricket, or give the whole day. So maybe those kind of like the small over game, like 6 overs or 10 overs games, they are kind of like something that attracts the people, I guess, the new viewers especially.
Yeah, look, for me, one of the great strengths of cricket has been its innovation. There's actually, for a sport that unfairly has a reputation as being stuffy and old and English, and that's not the modern game. It's incredibly diverse. I can't think of a more diverse sport at the top level. And the thing I love about it is so much that innovation has worked really positively. Test cricket is better now because T20 has come along.
Right.
You can't argue that. The skills at Test cricket level are higher than they've ever been. But for me, what I would love to see is just a bit more management and care for T20 in terms of, making sure it's played quickly. I saw that baseball shot clock there in operation was at the Texas Rangers. I know they've got the in-between overs clock now in T20, but that just feels like a little bit of a fudge for me. I think you should have a timer for your innings.
Right.
As the captain of the bowling team, the fielding team, you've got 115 minutes I probably got that grossly wrong, 75, 80 minutes to, so you've got an hour and 15 or an hour and 20, whatever they set, ideally an hour and 15 to bowl your 20 overs.
Right.
Okay. If you don't bowl your 20 overs in that time, unless there's a ball literally lost, which the umpires will give you allowances for, or just pause the clock, put it into the broadcast.
Right.
That's what I'd like to see. That's what they've done in a couple of the European cricket leagues. The European Cricket Network guys have kind of pioneered this. If you're not done by then, penalty runs. There's an actual penalty, and don't fine the guys 20% of their match fee.
Right.
The big players don't care about that. And then the smaller players, it really hurts them financially. Fine them on the pitch. We have penalty runs in the laws for a reason. It works really well. Right. And all of a sudden, like what's happened in baseball, I believe, a really good American guy, Peter Della Penna, with me to explain all the things that are going on. I know baseball well enough, but he knows it much better than I do. And he was telling me that games in baseball have gone from an average of, I think, 3 hours and 5 minutes last season to an average of 2 hours, 20 minutes the first year that the shot clock or the pitch clock was put into place.
Right.
So there is no reason why you cannot get a T20 done and dusted in 3 hours.
Right. I think ICC has
that should be our product.
Right. I think ICC has also introduced new rules, like whenever you have the bowler switch, he should be bowling within a minute, 60-second time frame, right?
Yeah, but my point is that's a fudge. So yes, that's come in and it's now permanently and well done. It's some innovation.
Right.
But that's just in between the overs. It's not in between the balls.
Right.
So the bowler can run up and bowl that first ball, and then you can call the captain over and take, 90 seconds talking about a field change for the second ball.
Right.
So my point is, if you have a set time period for the whole innings, that you have to, it will just all of a sudden, the players will say at first, oh, you can't do that. Oh, and then all of a sudden, what's happened in baseball? They said they couldn't do it. Now they do it. It's just become standard practice. The pitcher's always ready. The batter's always ready. And everyone just gets on with it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, you spoke about that importance of time in the modern life. T20 should be done and dusted in 3 hours. Some of those IPL games taking over 4 hours. And, kind of defeats the whole purpose of what is supposed to be our shortest and sharpest format. I love what T20's done for the game. I love all the innovations. I just think if they could keep it to that 3 hour window, it would be even more successful.
And hopefully, we'll have some very, tall stadiums with a covered ground, the weather.
Well, we need one of those in Ireland because we usually get rained out, yes.
Right.
Look, it's one of the unique things. You can't play tennis in the rain either. Baseball, they go off. It seems like it affects cricket more, I guess, because some of the parts of the world it's played in, even when there's a summer or a season that they're playing in, there tends to be rain. You think of England or Ireland, where I'm from. But look, we can't do anything about that. There is a couple of grounds. I think it's the one down in Melbourne and the Docklands that have been played cricket at with the roof on. I think one of the big successes of recent years has been the innovation in pitch technology, meaning you can do these drop-in wickets. So a project like New York is actually possible. But look, we can't change the rain. It's not going to rain on Tuesday. The sun's going to shine. Nepal are going to take a big win.
Right.
And you're going to have 7,200 in absolute ecstasy at the ground. Or 7,100. You'll have the 100 Dutch fans.
Right. I mean, you have been to the Galdies of Kathmandu, right? So you probably see how people play. I'm not sure, if... there are still kids playing in the street like we used to back then.
There are. I have been there 4 months ago, and it's still it is the same thing.
I don't know enough about Nepali football to know. Again, I know there's political challenges, but you can see in the 6 years that I've been there, the difference is huge. Football was obviously kind of in many ways quite popular. That seems to be drifting away, and it's really all about cricket right now. Right. From the back streets through to the national team, and that's no disrespect to the football guys. I know they've got all sorts of problems, players having to leave, and emigrate to other parts of the world. It's not easy, and my great friend Subasu Mungain is going to kill me for in any way mentioning football in a negative light. Although he knows I'm a cricket man, he loves both. But
they actually say like there was a video we were talking about that, saying you are the brand ambassador of Nepali cricket.
Yeah.
You have seen the world, so how do you feel Nepali fans are different from the rest of the world?
Yeah, look, they're amazing, and just being honest, there is not a day really in the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years now, really since COVID, since I've kind of been traveling back more and more often to Nepal. There's not a day that goes by where I don't get stopped in my tracks by a fan in some way. Exactly. And it's like this kindness, and I can be having the most normal day you could ever imagine, not even thinking about you know, the fact that I'm even in any way affiliated to Nepal. I can be, you know, walking down the street, whether it be in you know, it could be anywhere in the world. I was in Muscat there recently. I was literally at the end of a long day sitting down. I think I was eating a shawarma, and these two guys came over and said, "Oh my God, are you Tacklu died?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, hey guys." And they sat down and had dinner with me, and it's the strength and the kindness of the messages that I usually get portrayed to me it's completely overwhelming, lads. It's crazy, being honest with you. I had one literally yesterday on Instagram. I get all sorts of incredible messages. People are so nice. I can't explain how nice people are. Right. Like I can't think of a single bad message I've received. It's crazy. And I had one from I'm not going to name the person or tell you anything about them, but they said they didn't even watch cricket and they knew nothing about cricket, but they just saw the kind of the positivity I was helping to bring Nepal.
Right.
And that was, you know, I'd never had one like that before. So it's like every day, honestly, a week wouldn't go by, let alone a day, where I get some kind of message or kindness shown to me that's just, yeah, I don't even know how to express thanks for it, because it's so overwhelming.
I mean, the game cricket has been more than just a game itself. It has become a notion of, you know, you presenting the emotions and the way that you reflect, you know, from that commentary box. It is more like representing the feelings of everyone connected with that game, everybody watching that game. And yeah, it is just more like, whenever I watch you doing the commentary, it feels, it is just a different level of game that I'm watching. It's going on. If there is different commentator, nothing bad to the others, but the way that you deliver, it just feels like I'm there watching myself. I'm in the ground and enjoying every moment.
Your commentary, we can listen in the radio and imagine the game.
Right.
It's a feeling, isn't it? Nepali cricket. It's an emotion. It's there has been times when I've been doing it and it almost genuinely, you can feel free to slag me here and you say I'm exaggerating, but it feels like almost an out of body experience, because of the fact that, you know, you can just tell how much it means to so many people, and particularly when you're at the TU or up at the Mulpani ground, if you're in Nepal, you cannot help but feel that. You know, if for God's sake it comes in through the window. We don't even have a sealed off broadcast box, so you can't help but feel it. And look, I guess the swings of the emotions, the highs and the lows, and Nepal cricket fans who are more than just the most recent ones who've come in recent times know the really low of lows of not even being close to qualifying for World Cups, of being threatened with losing ODI status, of the board being suspended by the ICC. You know, that they know the big lows, and then look at 2023, look at the highs. I was asked recently to, I'll speak honestly, I wish I was commentating on this event on television. I don't think there's a broadcaster in the world that wouldn't. But I was asked by the guys just to do a little bit of work in terms of helping, you know, the broadcast team understand the associates, which, you know, really honoured to do and happy to help them with. And I was reading back an article, just in all my research, like the Nepal one I could have written blindfolded, no problem, but I wanted to give them the links for them to know more. And I reread an article on Cricinfo at the time, at the end of that 12-match run. And it said, I think the headline was something like 11 miracles in 12 matches. And like, when you actually look back at each one of those games, let alone just the journey the team has been on generally, it is utterly extraordinary. And,
right.
You know, you see some of the clips, the viral clips. I get tagged in stuff all the time. Sometimes I'm able to pull something together and push it out myself. Like, you look at I know both sides had qualified, but, you know, Nepal and Oman playing that game where it went to the super over. The last ball was like just the last ball, let alone the entire game, was like a 15-part novel. Like, it just, they give us feelings unlike anything I've ever seen. And I go back to that point of wanting Nepal to show that on the world stage. Like, can you imagine if they win a game, just even one game? Like, what it's going to be like, what it means for you guys who are, you know, I consider myself probably half Nepalese now, but you guys are fully Nepalese. You're living overseas, and that's something Irish people can empathise with. The vast majority of our country emigrates and lives overseas, and you're so far from back in Nepal. You're 10, 12 hours away. What that would mean to you to see your country win the
Right.
World Cup match in
What-
the country you're living in now. Like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that.
Right.
Like, what it's going to mean to you guys, I can only imagine. And then as a byproduct of that, the spectacle that that's going to create, you know, even for the layman, you know, the Indian cricket fan or the Australian cricket fan tuning in, whatever time of day it is, they're going to feel that. You will not be able to help but feel that.
Right.
And oh God, I'm just so excited to watch the journey now of all the teams here.
Right. I mean, I have been excited about just the feeling about being present in that moment, right? Even if it is if it is going to be the big win, or if it is just a win or is lose, it's more about seeing your people play in front. And this has been a dream come true again. Like we have been talking about it the last 10 years. And I still remember there was this media funny thing that when one of the reporters in Nepal, he asked Paras Khadka, the former captain of Nepal team, asked like, when are we going to win World Cup? And it was like a viral clip back then. I don't know if you remember, if you have any idea about that or not, but now Paras Khadka is back into the management body, and I want to know your perspective on that. Like, how do you see it?
Yeah, look, that's been a really good thing, hasn't it? He seems to have really changed the dynamic of the Cricket Association of Nepal in terms of their focus is really heavily on the cricket side now, the national teams. I suppose the best bit of advice I can give, I know there are so many things a cricket board needs to do in terms of developing the game, promoting the game, developing infrastructure and facilities, and you know, the government links, getting funding, getting commercial sponsors. Like, there's so much to it. But I think the one thing that I could advise Nepal upon, and that's what I think Paras Khadka is now doing, is really to try and follow in Ireland's footsteps in terms of how they achieved test status, becoming a full member of the ICC, and the vast majority of their focus for that entire journey to get that full membership was on the elite national sides, men's and women's national teams. Because if they do well on the international stage at world events, all of a sudden everything else can come alongside that. So, you know, if they can get the correct preparation, which I think they've got probably more cricket than any of the 20 teams. Some who'll make an argument they've played too much actually in the up to this World Cup. That's another day's work, but it's just great to see the boys playing so much. I think it's 30 men and 19 women on full-time professional contracts now. It's without doubt the most popular sport in the country. It's without doubt the most popular associate of the 96 in terms of the popularity of cricket within that country. The potential is scary. I've said several times they could easily be Afghanistan in the next 10 years. And hopefully with Paras Khadka alongside everyone else involved, that will help drive that. I'm not one for politics. I don't know how any of that works in Nepal,
Right.
but I just love seeing the players being given kind of that additional support now and more fixtures and more focus. It's really good.
Right. I mean, politics has always been a big game changer outside the field, and it impacts the inside, you know. It
Yeah.
impacts the field and the players, even like whenever we see the players being chosen for all the sports as well, there has always been the controversy about the Nepali politics and everything. But living beside, you know, just putting it all beside that, the guys have been delivering us every time. And even when we were all like hopeless about like, okay, we are not going to get the ODI status, and they came back, and it is more like, you know, giving us a hope that when there is no hope, they are showing us a light, like there is one. So I think that is one of the biggest take we can take from the Nepali cricket team.
Yeah, and I think if you just look at the other leading associates, the ones that are doing well are very good off the field. Namibia, exceptional. The Cricket Namibia team with a small staff doing a phenomenal job in a very small country. And as a consequence, their teams on the pitch are very well prepared and perform well. Oman, exact same. Phenomenal setup. Mr. Pankaj Kimji, what he's done for the sport there has been sensational. Historically, Ireland certainly did a brilliant job to get towards test status. I know they're not an associate anymore. So it's if things are good within the board, within the structure, within the setup, if things are being done with the best interests of cricket at heart, that's going to help you significantly on the international stage. And that's what then places pressure onto the ICC to start to expand world events, to start to extend the full membership and the like.
Right. I mean, like, I sometimes imagine, like, you know, being this international games being hosted in Nepal, and see how you know, how the crowd will react to these big countries. Like, just imagine India and Pakistan playing in Nepal.
Just imagine Nepal playing India in Nepal. I'd rather see that.
All right.
Do you miss Sandeep?
In terms of what do you mean? Just watching
Like,
them bowl and all that, of course. Yeah.
in the World Cup.
Look, I'm no politician. I'm no visa expert. I have no idea what's happened. I obviously read a few of the things in and around social media. Are Nepal a better side with Sandeep in the team from a cricketing perspective? Of course they are. He's a phenomenal bowler. He always has been. He's so skillful. He's so brilliant. But sadly, for this World Cup, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know the logistics of the visa stuff. I know a lot of fans are very angry at the ICC about it. I'm not sure that it's anything that they could have done. I don't know if that...
They went in front of the embassy and they
I
just
saw
sat
there
there
was
and
some protests.
they did the protest.
Yeah, and look, if Sandeep was on the field, it would be a stronger Nepali side, but he can't be. So I hope that there hasn't been too much focus just on that. I obviously, Sandeep has been proved innocent now, so you should absolutely feel he should be allowed to play. Right. So I feel desperately sorry for him, from a cricketing perspective, absolutely. I have been in touch with him, but
hopefully in the next World Cup.
Well, that's the thing.
And
look, time in everything in life is a great healer. The decision probably came a bit late again. I don't even know if that's the case. I don't even know if it was in a year's time will he be allowed in. I don't know. I know nothing. We're blessed with an Irish passport, I'll be honest with you. An Irish passport, you seem to be welcomed everywhere. Right. You rock up and they say, Jesus, there's an Irish fella. And he goes, he's great, And I admit that's a ludicrous privilege that we have. So even, the process of having to get a visa, I think I've done it for one country in all the countries I've visited.
Oh, just one.
You just rock up and maybe sometimes have to pay someone some US dollars, but that's it. So, I do get quite a few questions on social media. Oh, sir, why are you not saying anything about Sandeep? Like, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not a politician. I'm not anything to do with visa or consular services. Right. So if I said something, it would probably be incorrect and misinformed. So even the way I'm answering this, I don't know what I've said. It could be wrong. I'm not trying to be flippant about it. Right. I obviously desperately understand why people wanted him in the team and why it's such a talking point. But I think if I was to comment on it, I didn't comment when he wasn't able to play. Now he should be allowed to play. I haven't commented either. I don't think it's fair.
Okay, Andrew, we have been, we are coming almost at the end of the podcast. So anything that you want to say to Nepali fans and Nepali cricket team?
We've started recording? Sorry, I thought, was this not the preamble? We've started, okay. I'm joking. Look, to Nepal fans, just a sincere thanks and genuine thanks. We've got a big event tonight. We've got a fan fest event. I think if you told me 5 years ago that I'd be in the United States about to attend a Nepal fan event.
And you are the host.
Yes.
He's the host, guys.
The host of a Nepal fan event to talk about the sport that I love, doing the job that probably is the closest thing to living my dream. My dream was to play cricket for Ireland. And no different to Frank and Zabuga's dream. I wanted to play cricket at a World Cup for Ireland. I wasn't good enough. I didn't work hard enough. I didn't deserve to, but I'm doing the next best thing now for me. And I adore, nothing quite even comes close to the buzz of playing cricket like cricket commentary. I still wake up. I've turned a very old age recently. I got all the happy birthday messages last week. I still wake up going, God, shall I get back into shape? God, I could still be good at it. I still turn it a long way, but that's not going to happen. But to do the thing that I adore and have, I'll be very honest with you, without the support of the people, particularly from Nepal, but from all the associate nations. I did that Sky Sports podcast recently. The reaction I had to that was staggering. And even Sky Sports said that to me. Without the support of those people, I wouldn't be anywhere anyone even close to living what I am now, which is, in my humble opinion, I'm living my dream. So it's a bit surreal, but sincere Dandavad, and I hope it continues for the rest of my life.
Right, and best of luck for that too.
Thank you so much. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Please continue doing this, supporting Nepali team and Nepali people, visiting Nepal and creating your contents.
I promise you one thing, I will never never ever turn down coming back. As long as people keep wanting me to come back, I'll never turn down coming. And I adore it there. I absolutely adore my time there. I actually, every time I'm not there, I get a little bit of kind of absence of it. I really miss it. I miss just everything about it, and the essence of it is so special to me. It's a massive part of my life now.
Okay, you're always welcome on there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Underdog.